Who were you before you were born? A 4-year-old girl in India insists she has a husband, a house, a death. She remembers vividly. Her name was Shanti Devi. At 4 years old, she started describing a town called Mathura, a town she had never visited, a husband named Kedarnath, a house, the way she died. Shortly after childbirth, her parents assumed it was a child's imagination until they wrote down what she was saying and went looking for the town. It existed, the husband existed, and when he arrived at her door, she recognized him, recognized his family, recognized details no 4-year-old should have had access to. We'll come back to what researchers actually found here and what they didn't, but hold this question for the next 35 minutes. If something in a person can carry memory across a death, what exactly is doing the carrying? Because whatever the answer is, changes what you think you are. This isn't a modern question dressed up in a strange news story. Have you ever looked up at a night sky full of stars and felt something you couldn't quite explain? A sense of having been here before. A question that goes deeper than your hometown, deeper than your parents. Where did you actually come from? Human beings have been asking this for as long as we've had language to ask with. Shanti Devi's case is one of the most documented in a body of research that's genuinely strange, genuinely contested, and worth understanding carefully, not sensationally. For over 50 years, researchers at the University of Virginia have studied children, usually between ages 2 and 6, who spontaneously start describing a previous life. Psychiatrist Ian Stevenson began this work in the 1960s. Jim Tucker continued it. Together, they documented more than 2,500 cases from around the world. Their method was consistent. Interview the child, interview the family, then go looking for the place, the person, the details the child described before anyone could confirm them. Here's what needs to be said plainly. This research is not accepted by mainstream science. Most researchers remain skeptical. The likely explanations, they argue, include family suggestion, cultural expectation, and memory reconstructed after the fact. Once a story starts to feel meaningful, children are also simply remarkably good at absorbing details from adult conversations they weren't meant to hear. That skepticism is reasonable. This is not settled. It's an open, contested field. What keeps it from being dismissed entirely is the specificity in some of the case files. Take one example, documented by Stevenson himself. A boy in Sri Lanka began describing, at age 2, a house near a coconut plantation, a father who drove a truck, and a specific accident involving that truck. Investigators traced the details to a family in a town the boy had never been taken to. The truck accident had happened. The details matched, independently confirmed by people who had no contact with the boy's family beforehand. None of this
Provas Reincarnation
proves there's a real, documented pattern that current explanations don't fully account for. That's different from proof. It's an open question, not a closed one. So what did the tradition built around this question actually claim? In its own oldest texts, the Buddha's answer wasn't built on children's testimony. It was built, according to the earliest accounts, on his own experience on the night of his awakening. Sitting beneath a tree, his mind, he said, became extraordinarily clear, and in that clarity, he described recalling countless previous lives, not vague impressions, names, families, what he ate, what he suffered. I remembered my many births, he said. 1 birth, 2 births, 3, 4, vast cycles of cosmic time, worlds forming and dissolving. That claim is central to why he taught what he taught next. After his awakening, he's remembered as saying, through countless births, I wandered, seeking but not finding the builder of this house. He wasn't describing a literal house. He meant the structure of an individual life, built and rebuilt, life after life. And the builder he searched for wasn't a god and wasn't a single creator. In his teaching, the builder is craving ignorance, the attachments that keep the structure standing. Different cultures, long before and long after him, tried to answer this same question in their own ways. Some pointed to a creator breathing a soul into each new life at the moment of conception. Others described a continuous stream flowing through many bodies across time. Some indigenous traditions describe a person existing as a spirit within a sacred place long before they're ever born. The Buddha's path didn't match any of these exactly. He didn't point to a single creator. He didn't say, we simply appear from nothing. And when people asked him directly what the very beginning of all this was, he's remembered as often saying nothing, not because he didn't know, because the question he suggested was built on an assumption that doesn't hold. A little like asking, what's north of the North Pole? The question sounds valid, but you've stepped outside the space where it applies. So instead, he focused on what could actually be examined: suffering, its cause, the way out, and on the specific claim that this life is one loop in a much longer cycle, which raises the harder question: if something continues from one life to the next, what exactly is it? Here's where the tradition gets genuinely, philosophically radical, not just religious. Picture a river. The water passing any single point is never the same water that was there a moment ago, and yet still the same river. There's continuity, even though everything in it is constantly changing. That's how this teaching describes consciousness, not a fixed thing, a flow, a stream. Your mind today isn't identical to your mind yesterday. New experiences, new understanding, maybe a changed opinion about something you were certain of a year ago, but something connects yesterday's mind to today's. That connection is the stream which creates an apparent contradiction. The tradition doesn't shy away from, teaches there is no permanent, unchanging self, and yet something continues. The resolution is that it isn't a thing that continues. It's a process. The Buddha used the image of fire. A fire is named after its fuel, a wood fire, an oil fire. The fire itself isn't a separate, independent object. It exists only in relation to what's burning. Change the fuel, you change the fire. And here's the part that answers the puzzle of rebirth. Directly, you can light a new candle from an existing flame without the original flame itself being transferred. Something passes on, nothing solid moves. What continues in this teaching is not a soul, it's a pattern of cause and effect, carrying forward the conditions that shaped it, which brings us to the mechanism behind that pattern, what actually determines where and how that pattern continues. The answer in this tradition is karma, almost always misunderstood. It isn't fate. It isn't a system of cosmic reward and punishment handed down from somewhere above. At its root, karma simply means action, specifically intentional action. Every choice, driven by intention, leaves an imprint in the stream of a mind. Throw a pebble into a pond. The ripples spread outward long after the pebble sinks. The Buddha put it plainly, I am the owner of my actions, heir to my actions, born of my actions. Not mysticism, cause and effect, applied with total consistency. Some effects ripen quickly, like a seed sprouting within days. Some take an entire lifetime or more to surface because the conditions for that particular seed simply aren't present yet. In one early text, the Buddha explains to a young man why people's fortunes differ so much. Harming others, he says, can shorten a life. Kindness can lengthen one. Generosity leads toward wealth. Stinginess toward poverty. Anger toward something that hardens a person's presence. Over time, patience toward something that softens it. None of this is meant as a simple formula you can apply mechanically. It's a description of tendency, not a guarantee. So what pulls? A pattern of consciousness toward beginning again, craving, clinging, the pull toward continued existence. The tradition names 3 conditions for conception: the union of the parents, the mother's fertility, and a third element described in the earliest texts as a gandhaba, which is often badly mistranslated as a spirit or a soul waiting nearby for a body. That's not what the texts describe. The gandhaba isn't a being, it's the stream itself, the pattern of karmic momentum without any fixed identity, riding inside it, drawn toward conditions that resonate with what it's already made of. Beings are reborn according to their actions, the Buddha said, taking rebirth in conditions that resonate with their own nature. The qualities we cultivate, generosity or greed, kindness or cruelty, create a kind of resonance with certain conditions. The circumstances of a birth, the family, the time, the place, aren't random luck, and they aren't punishment. They're the unfolding of an extremely long, extremely complex chain of past actions. None of this is deterministic. The past shapes the conditions you're born into. It doesn't lock in who you become. Past actions create tendencies, not fixed destinies. Every present moment is still a chance to plant something new, which brings us to the real center of everything we've covered so far. Not past lives, not karma. If there's no fixed self, what exactly is being reborn? Hold a fistful of sand. You can feel each individual grain, separate, distinct. Open your hand, and the sand flows away, merges back into everything else. Where did the fistful go? It was never a solid thing, just grains, temporarily gathered, given a name. That's what this tradition means by anatta, no fixed self. It's one of the hardest ideas in the entire teaching because it seems to contradict your most basic, everyday experience. You feel like a solid, continuous me. So how can this tradition claim there's no self while also teaching rebirth? Isn't that a direct contradiction? only if you assume rebirth means a soul moving from one body to the next. Doesn't. The tradition draws a distinction between two levels of truth. Conventional truth, the way we normally experience the world, separate people, names, personal histories, all of that is valid, necessary for simply living a life. Underneath it, ultimate truth points somewhere deeper. These solid-seeming things are impermanent, interconnected processes. The Buddha used the image of a chariot made of wheels, an axle, a frame, a yoke. Take it apart, piece by piece. Where exactly is the chariot? No single piece is the chariot. It exists only as a name we give to a collection of parts working together in a particular way. What you call I is the same kind of thing, a shifting collection of physical and mental processes known in this tradition as the five aggregates. Form, your physical body. Feeling, the raw pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral tone of an experience. Perception, how you interpret what you're sensing. Mental formations, your habits, your intentions, your patterns of reacting. And consciousness, bare awareness itself. Five aggregates, constantly changing, with no fixed core underneath them. So again, if there's no soul, what continues? Not a thing. Pattern. Light one candle from another. The flame on the second candle isn't the same flame as the first, but it isn't completely unrelated either. One created the conditions for the other. Think, too, about who you were 10 years ago. Nearly every cell in your body has since been replaced. Your opinions have shifted. Some of your closest relationships now didn't exist back then, and yet you'd still say, without hesitation, that was me. That's the same kind of continuity this tradition is pointing to, just stretched across the boundary most of us assume is absolute, the boundary of death. That's the resolution to the paradox. Rebirth without a soul, continuity without a fixed self, pattern, not a passenger. Now, one tradition within Buddhism took this framework and mapped it in extraordinary, specific detail. It's worth understanding as exactly that. One tradition's map, not the whole territory. Tibetan Buddhism describes the moment of death as a gradual dissolving, consciousness separating from the body like a rider finally dismounting a horse that's simply worn out. The physical elements in this specific account dissolving in stages. First, the earth element, bringing a sense of heaviness, of sinking into the ground. Then water, bringing dryness, a loss of fluidity. Then fire, bringing a loss of warmth. Then air, as the breath finally stops. After that, consciousness is said, in this tradition, to enter an in-between state, the Bardo, not fully in a body, not yet in a new one, a bit like a dream you can't quite wake from. The Tibetan Book of the Dead describes the mind in this state as having 7 times the clarity it had in life, but also 7 times the vulnerability to old fears and habits, rising up unfiltered, heightened awareness and potential disorientation, depending entirely on whether the person had prepared for it. This isn't a universal Buddhist teaching. It's important to be precise here. Theravada Buddhism, the oldest surviving school, doesn't describe this specific, intermediate state in the same elaborate way. The Bardo teachings are a detailed, specific contribution from one branch of this tradition, shaped by its own history, culture, and centuries of contemplative refinement, worth knowing, genuinely rich on its own terms, but not the whole picture of what Buddhism broadly teaches about death. So what does modern science actually have to say about any of this? It's worth being precise here, because these claims exist on very different levels of evidence, and lumping them together does a disservice to all of them. At the most solid level, there's real, replicated research on meditation itself. Long-term meditators show measurable changes in brain structure, more gray matter in regions tied to tension, compassion, self-awareness. Their brains also show different patterns of activity when faced with emotional triggers, often less reactive, more regulated. That's established, peer-reviewed neuroscience, replicated across multiple studies. One level down, there are documented but unexplained phenomena: terminal lucidity, people with severe brain damage, including advanced Alzheimer's, sometimes become suddenly clear-minded shortly before death, recognizing family, speaking coherently after years of being unable to. This is real. It's documented. In medical literature, doctors don't fully understand why it happens. It doesn't prove memory exists outside the brain. It means there's a genuine gap in current understanding of how memory and brain function actually relate. One level further down, there are anecdotal reports, not rigorously verified, some heart transplant recipients describing new food cravings or personality shifts that seem to echo their donor. A well-known case involves a woman who received a heart and lung transplant and afterward developed a taste for foods she'd previously disliked, foods her donor was later found to have enjoyed. These are individual stories, compelling to hear, not controlled evidence. Mainstream medicine does not accept that the heart stores memories. Alternative explanations, like coincidence or the psychological effects of receiving someone else's organ, remain far more likely, according to most researchers. And at the far end, there's serious, unresolved philosophy, the hard problem of consciousness, how physical processes in the brain produce subjective experience, the feeling of being you, seeing the color red, feeling grief. This is a real, open question in mainstream science and philosophy, not fringe. Some serious researchers have proposed that consciousness might be more fundamental than we assume, rather than purely product of the brain. That is a real, live position in philosophy of mind. It is not proven scientific fact. It's one hypothesis among several competing ones. None of this proves past lives are real. None of it proves they aren't. What it shows is that some of Buddhism's oldest contemplative questions and some of neuroscience's newest unresolved ones are circling similar territory from very different directions. That convergence is genuinely interesting. It is not proof of anything, which brings us to the actual center of this whole video. We opened by asking, who were you before you were born? That question assumes something worth questioning. It assumes there's a fixed you to trace backward, a soul waiting to be found in some previous life, the way Shanti Devi seemed to remember one. But everything this tradition teaches, points somewhere, more precise, and honestly, more interesting. The real question was never, who was I before? Is this, if there's no permanent me, what exactly is continuing? Not a person, pattern, not a passenger, riding through lifetimes, current, shaped entirely by what it's made of, flowing forward, whether or not anyone is steering it. That reframing changes everything about how you might carry this forward. If you knew, not believed, but genuinely considered that this life is one loop in a much longer pattern, how would that change the way you meet what's difficult? Right now, the fear of death can start to loosen its grip a little. Death becomes less an ending, more a change of scene. Inside, a much longer unfolding. The hardship you're moving through isn't random punishment. It might be the working out of very old conditions, met this time with more awareness than before. The good in your life isn't only luck. It might be the fruit of something planted a long time ago by a version of this same pattern. You'll never fully remember. This understanding tends to open something else too, compassion. If this pattern really has been flowing for a very long time, then the stranger in front of you might once have been in some other current of this same river, your mother, your friend, even at some point, your enemy. The Buddha put it simply, understanding rebirth, the wise person does good because it becomes a support for what comes next, not to earn some cosmic reward, just recognizing that actions carry weight beyond this single moment. You don't need to resolve whether past lives are literally real. To use this practically, notice the patterns that keep showing up in your own life, the same kind of conflict wearing a different face, the same fear triggered by something new, whether or not those patterns started in some previous existence. They're shaping this one right now, and this one is the one you can actually work with. Before we close, 5 reflections this tradition offers. I am of the nature to grow old, cannot avoid aging. I am of the nature to become ill, cannot avoid illness. I am of the nature to die, cannot avoid death. Everyone and everything I love is of the nature to change, cannot avoid that separation. I am the owner of my actions, heir to my actions. My actions are the ground I stand on. These aren't meant to sound heavy. They're meant to wake you up to how precious and how fleeting all of this actually is. Even a small act done with real intention, one moment of patience, one honest kindness, sends a ripple further than you'll ever see. Shanti Devi may or may not have remembered a real previous life. That question may never be settled, and honestly, it may not need to be, because the deeper question underneath it doesn't need that mystery solved to matter. There is no fixed you to trace back through time. There's a pattern shaped by every choice that's already been made, and every choice still left to make. And right now, in this moment, you're still shaping it.